In this video, we'll show you how to cast on using the thumb method and the 2-needle method. We're using Hayfield Bonus DK and you'll use the yarn and needles in your pattern. To start off, we want to take our yarn, and I'm going to begin by showing you the thumb method. When we're working with the thumb method, we're using our tail end, which is the end coming away from the ball, and our end attached to the ball. When using the thumb method, we want to have a nice long tail because this helps us cast on. This will be determined by the amount of stitches asked for in your pattern, but it's always good to just make sure you have an extra long length so you don't run out. We're going to start by doing a slip knot. And so we're going to do that by taking our fingers, wrapping our yarn round, coming through from the front, grabbing that strand and pulling through to create a loose loop. And we're going to pull this slightly and place this on one of our needles. When working the thumb method, we only need to use one needle rather than both. And we're going to have our knot on our needle, and we're going to have our ball end in our main hand, and we're going to make sure our tail end comes out the other side. We want to start off by setting up our hand to do the thumb method. We're going to take the yarn that's coming the tail end, and we're going to take that and we're going to go round our thumb, pinching here to create a cross, and with our needle we come in under that loop. So just make sure we're coming round the thumb, crossing over and coming under with our needle. We're going to take the yarn and make sure you're using the yarn that's attached to the ball, and we're going to come round under your needle, over the top, and using our thumb we're going to take that loop and pull off, creating a stitch. So you can now see we have our original knot on our needle and the first stitch we created. So this is counted as 2 stitches on our needle. I'm going to show you that again. So pinching here to get your grip, come over your thumb, round to cross, coming underneath that, up in the direction of your thumb, taking the end that's attached to the ball, wrapping around your needle, and then using your thumb to lift that over the needle and pulling slightly to add one more stitch. So we'll go through that again. Round your thumb, cross and under, round your needle, over, lift off and pull to line your stitches up. You want to repeat that for the amount of stitches listed in your pattern. And that's casting on using the thumb method. I'm now going to show you how to cast on using 2 needles. So I'm going to take this off. Casting on with 2 needles, we don't need such a long tail. So you can want to start with a slip knot, but we want to leave just a long enough end to sew in at the end. We're going to place that on our needle. I'm going to pick up our second needle. You want to place your slip knot on the needle in your left hand, and this time our needle in our right hand is empty, and we're going to start building up the stitches on this left hand needle. We're going to go into the loop from underneath, crossing our needles. So you can see we've got the slip knot on our needle, and then our right hand needle we've come underneath, crossing, and we're going to take our yarn, and I find the best way to hold this is in our hand. So I've got the yarn gripped in these, and I'm using my index finger as an antenna to help loop the yarn as I'm doing the knitting motion and casting on. Casting on with 2 needles is most similar to a knit stitch. So we're going to hold our needles, we're going to take our yarn, we're going to loop under the needle, over the top. So we've gone under, over the top. Use our hand to hold our needles, and here we're going to take our needle from underneath And I always like to hold the end of my needle to make sure that you're not going to lose that stitch. Push our needle through to sort of scoop out the stitch, and so we've now got our first knot and our new stitch we're making. It's really important when you come through to twist, and we're now going to take a left hand needle and come over the top of that stitch on our right, so towards you and then into that stitch, and then we're going to remove this needle, adding a new stitch to our needle. I'm going to work that again to make another stitch, so I'm coming into the loop from the front to the back, going underneath, taking our yarn, looping round our needle, so underneath, over top. That's held there. Holding your yarn like this will help you keep the yarn nice and tight so it doesn't come off. And then using our finger, push through, slip, separate out so you've got your 2 loops, and then you just want to remember with your left hand, you come over the top to create that twist into the stitch closest towards you, pushing through to the front and removing that, adding a next stitch. So I'm going to go through that one more time. So we come into the stitch, wrapping round underneath to over the top, holding, pushing through, pulling out, separating so we've got our 2 loops, and then taking this needle, coming over the top, catching that stitch and adding one on. And you'll want to cast on the amount of stitches given in your pattern. So that showed you how to do both cast on methods, the thumb method and using 2 needles. Practice until you're confident, and then head to surdar.com for more stitches, beginner kits, patterns and yarn.